Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Rob, I'm going to shift gears on you. I want to go back to clips 1 and 2. Sanctity of life, very, very important issue to us. And we sent an action alert out on Monday from AFA urging you to contact your representative and to urge them to vote for a very important sanctity of life bill. This is a bill that protects babies after 20 weeks of development in the womb. If they're 20 weeks or more along in gestation, they would be protected by this bill. Now, under some pressure, exceptions were put in for rape and incest. But even with that, this bill would save 99% of the babies who are still in their mother's womb at 20 weeks of development. And that's about the age at which children are viable outside the womb. We have had children born now as young as 21 weeks that have survived outside the womb. So we're getting very, very close now to the age of viability. And the reason that Trent Franks, who authored this bill, set the threshold at 20 weeks is that's when we know, as a matter of biological and scientific fact, that babies in the womb can experience pain. All the pain receptors are there. The neurotransmitter paths are all there. So we know that they can experience pain. In fact, neonatologists will tell you, people that study babies and study babies in the womb, health professionals, doctors, neurosurgeons who work on babies, they will tell you that they probably can experience more intense pain at 20 weeks in the womb than an adult experiences, because not only are their neurotransmitters fully developed, there's some kind of a system that's in place in the body that helps to kind of minimize the intensity of the pain so you don't just pass out. And that develops later in pregnancy. So at this point, at 20 weeks of development, a baby's nervous system is as vulnerable and raw as it ever is. So if there's ever one of times you care about babies, you don't want babies to experience pain, really, if you can help it at any stage of life. We had that story about that. Remember that tragic story of the 2-year-old girl? Her dad was mowing the lawn with a riding mower, didn't know she was behind the mower, accidentally backed up the mower, and they had to amputate her feet. Well, she's been in the hospital for 9 weeks. They've got prosthetics for her, video of her out there running around like a happy, healthy 2.5-year-old. And it's terrific. It's great. It's a really feel-good story. And I've been reading the stories about the dad. I mean, he was crushed by this. It just destroyed him. Even though he was not at fault with this, it destroyed him what had happened to his daughter with him sitting at the wheel of that riding mower. I mean, it's a distressing thing to think about a child experiencing that kind of pain. It just breaks your heart. And so everybody is so happy when the story has a happy ending and it looks like she's going to live a full and happy and normal life. And the dad's on the road to kind of psychological and emotional recovery. I don't know how you ever get over that if the child were to die. I mean, I don't know how you'd ever get past that. It'd be very difficult if you love your kids like you and I do. But at any rate, we don't want to see kids experience pain at any age. So this makes perfectly good sense. It passed yesterday by a decisive margin in the House. That's the very, very good news. It's the Pain-Capable Child Protection Act, the Unborn Child Act for protecting them from the moment they can experience pain, or we know they can experience pain. Now, there were 7 Democrats that actually voted for this thing. There were 6 Republicans that voted against it. I won't go into the details there. A couple of the Republicans that voted against it had sort of been lobbied by a pro-life organization that I didn't think the arguments that this pro-life organization was making was very sound. But there were a couple of genuine pro-lifers that voted against this thing. I think they kind of got sandbagged on the deal. But regardless of all of that, it passed by decisive margin. 7 Democrats voted for it. Now here is a professor on MSNBC last night talking about this pro-life bill, the Sanctity of Life bill. Now realize that 36% of all of the abortions that are done in America are done on black babies. Only 12% of the population is African American, but 36%. So their babies are being aborted at 3 times the rate of their presence in the population. This is virtual genocide against the black community. And this is perfectly fine with Margaret Sanger. She believed that black children were like noxious weeds. That was her term. She said, we want to exterminate the Negro population. Again, that was her term. And she's the founder of Planned Parenthood. They've never shaken that eugenics view and that racist view of African Americans. And we don't care what color an unborn baby is. It doesn't matter to us. But we're out there to protect the life of every baby. We don't care what color its skin is. And I mentioned this before, but I was on a black radio station some time ago, Black History Month, and the black host kind of got right in my face, like, what have you done for the black community? Unless I'd marched at Selma, like I didn't have any bona fides to be concerned about African Americans. And I said, well, I'm working with all the energy that I've got to stop the abortion of black babies by Planned Parenthood. I'm working to protect babies, black babies in the womb, from being incinerated and torn apart limb from limb. Well, he didn't like that answer very much, and I've never been invited back. But we're the ones, it's the pro-life community, we're out there trying to save black babies. Remember, we had E.W. Jackson on here on Monday. He's the African-American that's running for lieutenant governor in Virginia. He compared Planned Parenthood to the KKK. It's a valid comparison. KKK lynched 3,446 blacks. I looked it up again. Over 80 years, the KKK lynched 3,446 blacks. Over 4,000 black babies are aborted in 4 days. So in 4 days, and Planned Parenthood does more abortions than anybody in the country, in 4 days, more black babies are put to death than blacks who were lynched during the entire existence, the 80-year existence of the KKK and its lynching activity. So with that in mind, I want you to listen to this college professor, clip 1, talking about the Sanctity of Life bill.
Has there been a bigger con man in the White House than Barack Obama? He hasn't lifted a finger since he made those statements.
Okay, that's
and when he made the statements in the
clip 1. Is that the Okay, that was Ralph Nader, by the way, saying he's a Democrat, hardcore Democrat, and he's saying that Barack Obama is the biggest con man that we've ever had in the White House. And realize that's not me saying that. That's not a conservative saying that. That is Ralph Nader saying that Barack Obama is the biggest con man we've ever had in history. Now, here is this college professor on MSNBC talking about this pro-life bill.
Well, I think the census just released data, so part of it is that there's the changing racial demographics in the United States. For the first time in American history, children born under the age of 5 are majority of them are racial and ethnic minorities in the U.S. So I think that there's a kind of moral panic, a fear of the end of whiteness that we've been seeing a long time, and that I think Obama's ascension as president kind of symbolizes to a certain degree. And so I think this is one response to that sense that there's a decreasing white majority in the country, and that women's bodies, and white women's bodies in particular, are obviously a crucial way of reproducing whiteness, white supremacy, white privilege. And so I think it's just a kind of clamping down on women's bodies, in particular white women's bodies, even though women of color are really caught in the fray.
I mean, it's just amazing to me. Everything is about race with these people. We don't see color. We see character. We see content of character. We judge people just the way Martin Luther King Jr. taught us to do. Says, I look forward to the day when my kids are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So Martin Luther King Jr. invited people to judge his children. Go ahead and judge them, evaluate them. But I want you to judge them based on their character, not on the color of their skin. But I'm telling you, for leftists, it is all about race. That's all they see. They cannot see past the issue of race. So this woman is saying, look, this is all about white supremacy. This is her explanation for why whites are involved in the pro-life campaign. We just want more white babies because we're afraid that we're going to be overwhelmed by this black minority. So this is all about white supremacy, all about white privilege. And of course, it's just absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous because we're fighting just as hard to fight black babies. In fact, if anything, we're more outraged that Planned Parenthood locates its abortion clinics in minority neighborhoods. That's an outrage. It's like they are targeting black women. They are targeting Hispanic women to eliminate their babies. So everything is race with these people. And in clip number 2 here, this is Representative Diana DeJette. She's one of the Democrats that voted against this bill. Now remember, this bill would save the lives of 99% of the babies who are 20 weeks along or more. Wouldn't save the babies that were conceived through rape or incest. That's always less than 1%. It'd even be a smaller percentage, because if you have a pregnancy that's 20 weeks along and the pregnancy was a result of rape or incest, that issue most likely would have been dealt with many, many weeks ago, somewhere near the beginning of the pregnancy. In fact, this bill requires, if you're going to exercise the rape or incest, you have to report that crime to authorities. You can't just make it up and decide you're going to use that. You've got to actually report the crime. You've got to identify the rapist. You've got to identify the person that's responsible for incest, and that's the way it ought to be. Now, remember, when they were supporting gun control legislation, their whole argument is, we got to do it. It's worth it if it will save just one life. This bill would save 99% of all the babies that are 20 weeks along or more. So a reporter asked Diana DeJet about that reasoning. If it will just save one life, why don't you support this? Here's how it went.
Many Democrats, when they were arguing for gun control in the wake of the Sandy Hook shooting, said even if this saves one life, it will be worth doing. Why not support this bill then, if it undoubtedly will save lives of babies that have been carried throughout 5 months of pregnancy?
Well, this is we already have laws in many states of this country. This bill is blatantly unconstitutional, and if you look at the perceived, or if you look at the stated reason of doing this legislation, the Kermit Gosnell case, that gentleman was convicted of murder and sentenced to life.
She doesn't answer the question. She's got no way to answer the question. She completely avoided it. She completely dodged it. She's off talking about Kermit Gosnell and the fact that he got convicted of murder. That wasn't the question. The question was, if you're all about saving one life, then how in the world can you not support this bill, which will save 99% of the lives of babies at 20 weeks or more along? Focal Point AFR Talk. Give us a call, 888-589-8840. We'll take your phone calls out of the break. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. 888-589-8840.